the Concord and Concord Carlisle Joint School Committee meeting.
I think that somebody has their audio on. We have a
Oh.
little echo.
Yeah, I can hear
Just
it.
turn your volume down.
So we will open this evening with public comment. We'll start with people in the room. You can approach, give your name and address, and then we will move to people on Zoom. And if you're on Zoom, if you could use the raise hand feature.
And I have to say, just as a reminder,
Yes.
this is a meeting in the public, not with the public. So if we do not comment, then you will understand why. So thank you.
And I will be within 3 minutes.
And look at that. I won't even
Thank
time
you.
you then.
I'm
Take
happy
you
to
at
take
your
my
word.
phone out. It's been a while since I've been in this room. I'm Louis Salami, 68 Great Meadows Road. Members of the Concord School Committee. As a former board member of the Concord Ed Fund, a 6-year regional school committee member where I was chair twice, the vice chair of the CCHS building project, an advisor to CCFA during the construction of the field, and a recent member of the Concord Library Building Committee. I think it is fair to state that I'm a huge supporter of the schools. I'm appearing before you tonight because I am concerned about the fate of the middle school building project. Having lived through a project that almost failed, do not think any of you fully comprehend the precarious position that the project is currently in. I've been following the middle school project closely since it was formed and supported the initial decision to move forward with the new building. In fact, I spoke in favor of the project during the feasibility design town hearings. However, once schematic design began, I've been critical of many of the decisions that have been made and have been vocal in outlining these concerns. Unfortunately for the project, the building committee has ignored these concerns and the project is now well over budget. To be clear, the explanation by the committee for the project being over budget is a false narrative. The estimate that was used at town meeting did not properly reflect the true cost of the building. Every effort was made to keep the cost of the building at the $100 million range, which was at the upper end of the range given prior to feasibility study beginning. The project being over budget has nothing to do with the current state of the construction market. These issues were well known during the schematic design phase of the project while the estimate for town meeting was put together. The reason for the project being over budget was a conscious decision that was made by the project professionals and supported by the building committee leadership team to assume cost inflation that was well below the actual rate of construction inflation. This issue was raised in public meeting and ignored. When construction inflation did not moderate, the cost estimate rose. Had the committee used an escalation estimate that was in line with construction inflation, you would not be looking at such a large budget deficit currently. Another issue that I raised was that the contingency embedded in the estimate was too low. The select board agreed with me and added $2 million in contingency to the project costs recommended by the building committee. Unfortunately, this is not enough, and the recommendation by the building committee leadership team to add additional layer of contingency of $6 million to the new budget is direct evidence of this. If the reserves are sufficient, why ask for more money? Bridge, and not why. The question is, how does this project move forward and deliver a much needed building to the middle school students of Concord? As all of you know, there will be a special town meeting in January where the town will be asked to support additional funds to bridge the difference between what was asked for originally in the final estimate. Both the select board and FinCom appear opposed to support this warrant article and have repeatedly asked the building committee to engage in more value engineering. To date, only 1.6 million in VE has been taken, which is tiny compared to a project with a $110 million price tag. There are many ways to reduce the cost of the project without needing to cut the square footage of the gym or auditorium. For example, it is 30,000 square feet over the MSBA square footage guideline, has a complex design, an unnecessary glass connector bridge, and can be moved to a flatter location that will not necessitate the need for expensive earthwork. Following the MSBA square footage alone would save $12 million. For clarification, excluding the second gym, the CCH project followed the MSBA square footage guideline, and there has been no impact to the educational outcomes. Why is the middle school different? It is clear that the building committee strategy is to pack town meeting with parents and get a favorable result. From my perspective, this is not good public policy and is divisive. The two questions for the school committee that I have for you is, how can you be so confident in prevailing at town meeting with the select board and FinCom opposed? And second, what will you do if you lose? The degree of optimism on the part of the committee is puzzling considering the following. The cost of the project for the average household in Concord has risen by 60% from 1,000 per year to now 1,600 per year. By way of background, the CCHR project was 450 per year. You will need a 2/3 favorable vote at town meeting to prevail. In my view, with the select board and FinCom opposed, the cost of the project up 60% at 2/3 majority required, it stands a good chance of failing.
Hey, Louis,
Time.
gotta wrap it up.
Let me just wrap
Yes,
up.
yep,
I
thank you.
apologize. Yeah. The school committee should direct the building committee to meet the select board and FinCom halfway and increase the amount of value engineering. If the new estimate is 115, cut 8 million, ask the town to fund the difference. This shows a good faith effort on the part of the schools, and it understands the tax impact of the project to Concord residents and is doing everything it can to mitigate the cost increases. If you lose that town meeting, you're going to have to cut a lot more than 8 million. You're going to have to cut 16 million plus. To me, you are gambling the success of the project with the present course of action. Thank you. I apologize for being over.
Thank
right.
you. Hey, if we have any more public comment in the room, you can approach the microphone. And if you are on Zoom, if you could use the raise hand feature. And I don't see anyone, but I believe Minuteman, I think you're unmuted on your mic. If you could maybe mute your Zoom. And there might be members of the audience, they're also unmuted. If you could just make sure you're muted, that would be great. Okay. All right, moving on to recognition. So we
Dr.
have our K-5 music team. So Dr. Hunter.
Thank you. And I'm going to turn this over to Kristen Herbert, and the 3 elementary music teachers are here. So we'll have her do those introductions and help us hear all the great things that have been going on. So, Kristen, all yours.
Hi, everybody. I'm so excited to introduce our 3 elementary music teachers. So from the Alcott School, we have Mr. Tolan. And from the Thoreau School, we have Ms. McLaughlin. And from the Willard School, we have Mr. Piper. And they're here to teach us a little bit about what goes on in the elementary music classes that kids have once a week for 50 minutes.
So my name is Dave Piper.
So while we're waiting.
Oh.
The Concord Library Building Committee.
Somebody in the audience. Carol, yell if you are there. Could you mute your microphone? Yeah. I'm so sorry. Go right ahead.
No, it's fine.
The computer should be on, your screen should be shut.
I'm going to show this.
He's got it.
So that's what he said. Can you say it again? Mark?
Yeah.
Can you say it again?
He should have his camera off, and it was his microphone that was causing feedback, not Minuteman meetings.
Okay, I think it was a home one. His microphone is off. I checked that. So we're all set. Thank
Okay,
you.
all set. Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Okay, yeah.
Beautiful. So introductions aside, in a music class, we're trying to hit 3 goals, 3 components every time. And our biggest one is music literacy. And we don't just mean reading dots on the page. We want to help kids to be able to think in music. And there's a lot of components to that. We'll talk about that in a moment. All of us do something called Musician of the Month. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. All of us mostly do the same artists, choosing from all across time, all across space, a diverse cross-section of artists that could be musical role models for our students. And we have to name it. If the kids are going to want to learn music, it has to be fun. And so much of what we accomplish at the elementary level is accomplished through singing games and community building. We have some wonderful assemblies at the Willard School. We have Monster Madness coming up, building community through music. And so that has to be named, that it's got to be fun, especially during our kids' earliest experiences with music. So a sample class. I try to hit 5 areas, and we're going to come in, we're going to warm up our voices, and we're going to sing all the way through something so that we have the experience of going start to end, having a musical experience all together. We are going to prepare a new musical idea. This is a little unique with music. We're not telling the students what they're learning. We don't say this is y equals mx plus b because they don't know what they're learning yet. They're having fun. They are engaging first in one class, their bodies. You're going to see that in a moment. They're trying to identify a musical element just with their ears, not looking at anything. And then they're going to look at something to understand what that musical concept is. There's a lot of parallels to language here. And after that, they're going to have the wiggles. And so we're going to get up and we're going to move. That could be a game. That could be moving to recorded music. That could be playing some instruments. We know that our brains work best when we're prepping for something and we're also reviewing something. So when we come back, we're going to work on reading or writing or maybe creating, improvising or composing with a previously learned musical concept. And then for some closure at the end, we're going to, and these are simple ideas the kids are working with, right? So we need to zoom upwards into real music. We need to hear an orchestra. We need to hear Aretha Franklin sing. And so we can go out with the rest of our day feeling joyful, feeling good about music. You know, we're not just making this up. We're not choosing songs that we like. We are working from well-known resources that have been vetted by a lot of people. Probably our main one is this Kodály Today. Zoltán Kodály was a Hungarian composer about 60, 80 years ago who really thought deeply about how little kids learn music. These other resources are supplementary and pull on other things, that the fun, the instruments, some different games. But all of us were really lucky that we purchased a set of these resources for every single elementary school, which has been really wonderful. It's given us a common language. So when we get together, we're comparing apples to apples. We describe sound in a few different ways. I think sometimes people think you take out an instrument and you play ABC. Way before staff notation was do, re, mi, sol, and the kids are spending a lot of time in that language, entirely in an oral domain. They're not looking at anything yet, but they're kinesthetically experiencing that through hand signs. What's the movie? Is it 2001? When they have the hand signs, thank you. And a lot of us, when we were younger, we might have done ta and titi. And music educators have scoured the globe and they found a better system in Indian tabla drumming, where we use the syllable takadimi. It uses the phonators a lot better. And so those are the rhythm syllables that we use now. And then later, once we've understood those things, we're working with some note names, primarily putting that on instruments. So that's pretty heady. What does this look like in real life? Well, here's some of my students, and they were getting ready for quadruple meter, a pattern of strong, weak, 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 which is really, if we can't organize that information, we're going to have trouble staying with other musicians. So here are some of my students.
1, 2, ready, sing.
Are you sleeping? Are you sleeping? Brother John, Brother John. Morning bells are ringing, morning bells are ringing. Ding, ding, dong, ding, ding, dong.
I wonder if we have a little audio drift here, but hopefully we're seeing, are you sleeping? And they're working together and they're doing it. I'm so proud of them. And so that would be a kinesthetic preparation. They're experiencing that with their bodies. What does that look like a few weeks later? Nice job. And I tell them that's when the Boston Symphony Orchestra looks at a conductor, that's what they're looking at. And so those kids are reading from the active board using previously learned rhythms. So that's just a snapshot of the process that we might use. I'm going to hand it over to Ken to talk a little bit about instruments in our classroom.
And just grab it.
Oh,
that's as far as it's gonna reach. Okay.
We could stand this way.
I think it'll be.
I was already.
Teamwork makes the dream work. Thank you.
You should just join us.
Right?
Just sit at the end of the table. It looks like, Ken, you're unmuted. Oh, you don't need to.
I don't need to unmute.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So Dave did a great job explaining how students are moving, how students are singing, but what about the instruments? So after we have really hit home on a tonal concept or a rhythmic concept, that could be solfege, so and me, or that could be rhythmic concepts like syncopation, we're going to move to the instruments. It's going to help the kids because they're hearing it a lot in their heads. And now it's time for them to physically feel it on an instrument as well. Can you please click this one? Perfect. So if you see here, you'll see all the instruments that we have from K1 to 2. Kindergartens, they're doing mostly rhythmic instruments. And as soon as they start going to first grade, they're doing more melodic instruments. That's actually also when we start doing so and me for solfege in first grade as well. So they're really getting a sense of, I've sung a song many, many times with many pitches. How can I put it on an instrument? And one thing that I love to do is I like to have the kids kind of figure it out on their own. You know, a lot of teachers are going to say, oh, you play a G, you play E. Well, let's be creative here. You know, so and me, I'll help you maybe with the first pitch, but how can we use our ears to get the rest of the pitches there? And as the grades continue, we start adding more instruments. We started adding tubanos. And then in third grade, everyone loves it. We start adding recorder. Okay. So the kids have worked really hard on just learning, you know, how to use a marimba. How do we use a tubano? Well, now we have to put air with it too. So how can I blow through an instrument, also use my ears and coordinate my fingers all at the same time? It's pretty tricky. You know, I do it daily. The kids, not so much, but it's so great seeing them really get that aha moment of this is what music can be. We keep going. We start building on with ukulele, my favorite unit, and we start teaching them chords. They start hearing things that they hear on the radio and they're like, hey, I can strum along to it. I can get a pattern. I can continue my love for music. And that's really all that we could ask for as music teachers. So here you're going to see a barred percussion that we worked on in my school. We started off trying to sing 2 different songs at the same time. My kids were like, what are you doing? I can't believe this. We're singing 2 different songs. I said, yeah, we're going to do it because everyone in here is capable. So we started off singing and then we got the solfege. And then when they finally got it, we put it all on instruments. So what you're going to see here, we learned an African marimba ensemble piece from this curriculum book called Marimba Mojo. And this one is called Bafalon.
Here you go. Last one. And roll. Not bad.
Great. That's fifth grade. Mhm. So we're also preparing rhythmic concepts as well with the ukuleles. So here they're working on what beats are short and long, and they're adding a ukulele accompaniment as well.
First day on the song. Excellent work.
Awesome. I'm gonna turn it over to Kayla for Musician of the Month.
Okay, so thank you. After all of the music making is kind of finished, wrapped up within our classroom, we turn it over to the larger musicians, the big names, and the way that we incorporate a variety of diverse music is really through this Musician of the Month. All three of us coordinate, which has been a really nice point of collaboration between the schools. These musical role models bring in different cultural backgrounds, different ethnic backgrounds, gender identities, time periods, genres of music in general. And it doesn't just happen in Concord. We have a bunch of other districts throughout Massachusetts, but probably throughout the country that are incorporating diverse musicians in elementary music curriculums. Our students, grades 1 through 5, all learn about the same musician at a level that's appropriate for the students that are in front of us. So I found that this is a really great opportunity for conversations to happen between different grade levels, between siblings. There's a big popular discussion on the bus. I always hear about somebody revealed who the Musician of the Month is, and I already know who this is. And so it's always something that the students anticipate each month as we change over to a new musician. The goal, goal of Musician of the Month is to inspire students to be lifelong active music makers and also consumers of music, because we know that not every student who's in our classroom is going to become a performer, right? And actually the majority of them won't. And so how do you make music relevant to the entire group of students? You do that by teaching them how to listen to music and exposing them to all different types of music so that they can figure out what they like. Okay, so a typical year of Musician of the Month artists, we talked about a variety of diverse backgrounds in every single way. So we've got classical, jazz, R&B, a cappella, salsa. We also tried to highlight if we've got different cultural celebrations happening within the month. So if we've got Hispanic Heritage Month, we did Selena, Dave did Tito Puente, right? We talk about musicians with disabilities, which was a huge one last year with Evelyn Glennie, who is a deaf musician. We talk about Asian Pacific Islander Month, Black History Month. And we also highlight that musicians are not just singers, because oftentimes that's what our youngest musicians think is, oh, it's a singer. Well, there's a huge variety of musicians, and some of them aren't even most famous for playing. They're famous for composing, or they're famous for conducting. So we highlight all different types of musicians and different definitions of what that means. So then we've got some examples. These are mostly ones that we did last year. So you'll see, we kind of mix in the current musicians with the old school musicians. So it's not just all classical music the way that, at least during my music education, it was all just the Mozarts, the Beethovens, and it wasn't anything that I actually was consuming or listening to. So we try really hard to make it relevant in a nice mix while also incorporating those classics like Aretha Franklin. And of course, why I think I speak for everybody, why we all get into this work is because music at its core is about bringing joy to the world. So we really focus and highlight how to make our students' experiences joyful in our classrooms. So we want to create lifelong lovers of music through a fun, safe, and engaging environment. And so all three of us, I think, do that in different ways. But the main goal is that fostering of a safe and engaging environment. We know that children learn best when they're playing and when they're having fun. Dave touched on that, but there's also lots of science behind that says that that's how students really process and learn. And so singing and movement games take the pressure off of the child while also nurturing their musicality. Games also foster our classroom community so that students are feeling comfortable taking risks. Some risks in music class. I don't know if any of you ever had this experience where you're in music class and your teacher asks you to sing by yourself. But that was something that I hated about my experience growing up. I did not like singing by myself growing up. And so I think in my students' mind, how am I making sure that they're comfortable before I'm asking them to sing in front of the class? And now I've got plenty of students who will all raise their hand when I ask for kids to do solos. And I think that that's because we have talked so much about how to nurture that safe environment. We're also asking students to express themselves and express their own creativity. And sometimes that can be very vulnerable too. So making sure that students feel comfortable in your environment is very important. And again, we use singing games to reinforce our curricular musical concepts. So they don't really know that they are reinforcing their musical concepts because they're having so much fun. But really, you can say, remember when we played that game? Okay, now let's sit down and talk about it. What did we hear? What rhythms were we doing? And then light bulbs start going off. And now we'll see some of that. So this is at Thoreau, and this is Here Comes a Bluebird. And these are a group of second grade students who are practicing, or no, third grade students who are practicing half note. Or will be, yeah. So the class has some characters, as you can see, but they're having lots of fun. They're expressing their creativity through their own ways. And I also think that our youngest students have really missed a lot of this social development and playing games, learning how to be a good sport when they lose. And so I'm reinforcing a lot of what classroom teachers are doing. I know that my colleagues are too, and just practicing playing games and being a good friend, being kind to each other. Okay, and lastly, our older students have done such great work and have been so focused throughout their kindergarten, first, second, third grade, that by fourth and fifth grade, we're ready to take those concepts that they've been working so hard to learn and apply them. And so fourth and fifth grade focus a lot on creativity, composition, songwriting, and really taking what they've learned and finding their own meaning in that. And so I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with the TikTok trend, the corn song. Hopefully maybe some of you are.
I'll admit it.
But it has gone
I am.
wild through middle, high school, and my upper elementary school students. And so I decided what better way to start off the year than something that's silly and gets them singing, because in fourth and fifth grade, that's always kind of tricky to get them out of their shells. And so we learned the corn song, and then I said, okay, everybody's going to pull a vegetable and you're going to work in small groups and you're going to write your own version. And the group that you're going to see also came up with choreography, which is just a bonus for everybody. So enjoy. This is about the avocado.
When I tried it
So if you aren't familiar with the Corn Kid, I really suggest you look him up. He's adorable. And that's where this whole trend got started. And he's about the same age as a 4th or 5th grader. And so giving the students the opportunity to take something, make it their own, work with their friends. This was the 3rd week of school and they're up in front of their class, singing by themselves, performing for each other. And I don't know, to me, that was a big win that I had these 5th grade students up in front of their friends and then learning how to listen to each other, clap for each other, cheer each other on. It was really nice for building our classroom community right at the beginning of the year. And that about brings us to the end, I believe. Yeah, so we'll take questions or comments.
I have a comment. I love, and of course I can't see the 3 of you. I wish we had you like right here. I love that it's the 3 of you cross schools and you're really the foundation for all of music. And so, you know, some of us are at the region and we can see where it's going. So kids start out with you guys, they might go into band, then they might go into orchestra. And then they go into the choirs at the middle school and even at the high school. So it's great that the 3 of you are working together and doing the same things across all 3 schools. Because I think, you know, we've all had kids in elementary school and the experience can be different. So it's great that the experience is the same. So thank you. And I do know the corn song. Here.
I don't. Way to make a girl feel old. Anyway, my biggest thing that well, not the biggest thing. There was so much that I took away, but I am such a believer in play-based education and the fact that you guys can somehow retain that in the curriculum in an era where I think, you know, culturally in this country anyway, we're moving away from that is so great. And it's so great to allow these kids K-5 to hold on to some of that. As you know, as you said, it's so developmentally appropriate. So really great. I'm so glad to see you guys collaborating and this was just great. Thank you guys.
So here you're on a Tuesday night, after your workday. And it's very clear to me, I think all of us, that you bring a lot of your own personal joy to this. You know, you talk about trying to instill joy on the part of kids, but it's no accident why you're as successful as you are. You embody it. So thank you very much for sharing time with us.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. It's really
Awesome.
great. And you can now go enjoy your evening.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Moving on to correspondence.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Oh, yeah.
Moving on to.
Well, before we start,
yeah.
as you know,
yeah.
this is more for the public. We are on a bit of a time constraint because we have a meeting over at Throw at 7:30. So we're going to get through as much of the agenda as we can. And when we have to stop at 7, we do have a hard stop at 7. We will continue on in our next meeting if we don't get through our whole agenda. So now
We don't have a meeting.
We don't have a meeting.
Yeah,
No,
the superintendent.
We don't have it. No, there's not. The superintendent is a meeting. There's a forum for everyone that wants to know, but there's a forum over at the Rowe School about
Sort of the
safety,
campus
parking,
master
campus.
plan.
Yeah, but we're meeting with the neighbors and going to talk on the vision of the campus.
Sorry, I skipped the minutes.
Go ahead. Okay, so on to minutes. We'll do minutes first and then I'll give it to you. So you all get a chance to look at the minutes. So we just have to approve our minutes.
Anyone want a motion?
Move that we approve the minutes from 9/27/2022.
Second.
Any discussion?
Nope. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. And correspondence, go ahead.
Correspondence. We had no like specific correspondence to CPS. But we did have a couple of pieces that were sort of both to everybody, both districts. They were about gifted programs, an email from CORE about some of our anti-racist initiatives. Another email from a leader of CORE suggesting a training for us. Did I miss something? I think I missed one.
And there was one piece of correspondence to both committees on racism and then just an email from a teacher.
Okay.
That was it.
Yeah, what's that?
Okay, so on to chairs and liaisons reports, and we'll be quick and swift on this one. If you have a report. Anyone? No?
We elected not to. Andrew was, you mean this morning?
Yeah.
No, Andrew the schools got taken. Cynthia's talking about the Concord DEI Commission met this morning, and Andrew Nemichi was a speaker, a big part of their agenda. He was sick, so they took it out. They're going to put him at the next meeting. So ultimately, I don't know if anyone went. I was planning to go, and then I didn't when they switched around the agenda.
And I think their next meeting is during the day also,
Yeah, 10 or 1 again.
1:00 at the library.
See where they're landing. Court?
Very briefly, I've corresponded with Tracy, our chair, in regard to the Concord Nanai Sister City Group. They are again inquiring about the possibility of a road naming the Ring Road at the high school as the one easy opportunity in their minds. I don't know if it's easy to reciprocate, because Nanai did the same in a road naming for Concord. So we bumped into some issues with this, such that we moved toward a plaque at the high school some years ago. So I don't want to belabor it tonight, but rather to say I think we should take it up formally at some future meeting.
And that group is meeting and discussing, formally taking it up. Or
Well,
no?
they know that it's in our hands and that we're at the inquiry stage yet again. So they haven't put a formal request in.
Okay, okay.
The road.
Plaque is done.
Plaque is done.
Plaque is done.
That be a school committee.
Yes, it would.
It's on the
Yes.
regional campus, so yes.
Mhm.
I thought they discussed it a number of years ago.
They discussed it, and Lori, you may be helpful here. For reasons that our minutes didn't fully capture, we moved toward the plaque in the main lobby instead.
Yes, I think there was I'm a little fuzzy too, but I think there was just hesitation about such a permanent decision on the campus. So
Right.
not for lack of respect and
But everything
treasure of
we knew
Nanai.
till then, or a
Yeah.
lot newer than it is now, so we may see a formal request, and we want that on our radar, so that we're not surprised, because the Nanai relationship with Concord, I think, is just about to hit year 25, where there's going to be some attention to visiting dignitaries, going back and forth and so on. But just something for the radar.
Okay. Anyone else have anything before we get to Lori? Yeah, we'll do Lori last. So go ahead.
Can the chair be part of the finance committee? We have that meeting since then, right?
No?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, sure. I put this in my
chair's
chair's
report.
report, which I was seeking not to do, but I can do it really quickly. As I attended the finance committee meeting, which was, I think, 2 Thursdays ago at this point, where the initial guideline for our school budgets were set. And as you guys saw in my chair's report, it was set at 2.5 as their preliminary guideline after a presentation from Bob.
What's the breakdown between the region?
I'm sorry?
What's Concord
Public schools in the region.
Oh,
Wasn't
I think
Concord 2.5,
Yeah.
region
1.9. We went with 1.9, so they, yeah.
And just for context, wasn't town 4?
Town was 4%. They were asking for 5.2. We were asking for 3.4. Level service is 3.7.
And I'm just gonna say, those
Yeah.
are all off of projections.
Yeah, of
because you
course.
don't have a budget.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah.
November, they set their permanent
Yes.
final guideline.
Yes.
Yes.
It's
Thank
actually,
you.
it's actually 2.52 for the region and 2.46 for CPS.
Oh,
2.52 for region.
so more than we asked for? Is that right?
I don't,
They took 2.5 and they averaged across our spending for the 2 districts. So I'm sorry, 2.52 for CPS and 2.46 for CCRSD.
what confuses me is, didn't they say 1.9 and that satisfies you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then-
Yeah, it was sort of,
So this will need a revisit.
yeah.
Yeah.
And they had, it was great. I mean, I thought it was great. Some people didn't thought it was less great. They had, spreadsheets going. I mean, they were iterating this in real time, which I thought was very helpful to sort of see. And some people were like, this is too confusing. So I think, it was happening in real time, and it was a long meeting. I'll say that too. I think by the time they were voting, it was 10 or close. No, it was actually earlier, but it was
9.
closer to 9,
9.
but they had robust agenda from 9 to what was after 11. So anyway, it was a long meeting. It was a big one.
Yeah, and the only other thing that Alexa and I attended the PGG meeting, but you should all have the chair's report, so we're not going to go over everything that's in there or in the agenda overview. And then just Lori, if you want to.
Yeah, I just want to shout out strategic planning kicked off last week on Monday night with a really great group of people. Thanks to Kristen for facilitating and leading the first round of that. Really great conversations about visioning in 5 years from now, and everyone's been sent off to go replicate that process with the groups they represent. So excited for that data to happen, but it was a great beginning.
And then tomorrow is the first DEIB strategic planning meeting. Steering strategic, they're just too close. That's tomorrow on Zoom from 6 to 7. And then the only other meeting that I don't think that we have on our report was I attended the CCTA diversity and hiring meeting, and that was great. And that is a monthly group, and it's really kind of a think tank, which is really fun to be a part of that group. So I'll bring you more next month, but we have some things that we're doing. Yep.
It's going to sound like a leading question, given what you just said, Dr. Hunter. Should Carrie and I be having some kind of conversation with the school committee vis-a-vis strategic planning?
Kind of posed that to the chairs. I don't know if we've resolved it
Okay.
completely.
Well, so you two are representatives, and
Right.
you are speaking for all of us. Well, you go because we're not all in attendance or participating. So at some point, I think maybe after the next meeting, then you can kind of give us an update of both.
Or do you mean having like a?
Are you talking about that
Well,
focus
when
group?
Lori says replicate, what I think
Yeah.
she's saying is have a two-way exchange so that we're
Right.
better informed coming back as your ambassadors.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
let's talk
so
about
you're-
that. And maybe
yeah.
we can email about that offline to see if that
Sure.
might make sense. At having a like standalone meeting. Yeah.
So it might be slightly different.
Yeah, I don't recall 5 years ago, the committee doing that, because you're going to see the products of the other groups as they come through in stages and be able to offer your ideas through a more formal.
Could be.
Yeah, so
structure.
I'll repeat, I'm not advocating.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
just saying
yeah,
sort of-
yeah.
It's a fair question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you feel as though at any point that that's something, if Kristen gives you that homework to do, to come to us and, get some more feedback, then that'd be great.
The minute we're hesitant about how to
Yeah.
represent the interests of this group.
Yeah.
yes, I'm
Come on
sure
back,
we'll
yeah.
be
Yeah, that's fair.
Quick to come
Yeah.
through. Okay, good.
Great.
good.
Great,
Thank
thank you. Okay, that's all we had there. And now moving on. Go ahead.
No, well, no.
Yes, I
So
think
Debbie
so.
Dixon's
Sit.
here, so she's over at that table
Yeah,
we've
Can
assigned.
can you sit at the end? Yeah, I would prefer the end of
Or
the
maybe
table.
it's all.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm gonna.
If that's not too much trouble.
Pull your chairs up over.
Like, put this. I just feel like, I don't see you. Yeah. Love you to be part of our table.
And Deb, are you gonna do introductions? Just trying to navigate them.
We'll give her a minute. We don't have
Yeah.
Erin with us today, so.
I am.
Are you gonna do introductions? Great.
Whatever.
Okay, thank you. Well, thank you for having me tonight. I know that you're on a very tight timeline, and I'm nervous because whenever Lori says 20 minutes, I usually do 40.
We can put you on a timer if you really want it.
I'm going to go very quickly, but before I start my formal presentation, I have somebody to introduce to you all. It's my pleasure to introduce Val Gransowitz, who is our new assistant.
I know.
So nobody's clapping more than I. Well, so let me give you a little bit of background.
Val, to the table.
Yeah,
for
why
a
don't you
minute.
chair up? I know, pull a chair up.
So
Thank you.
Val is joining us on November 9. I'm counting the days, minutes, hours. And she will be joining us to replace Marielle Winterstein, primarily as out-of-district coordinator, but also Val will be working with our in-district programming. There's a direct connection between out-of-district and in-district programs. She'll also work with other projects like ESY, extended school year programming, and other things that will assist in our office. Val has a tremendous background in special education and in education in general. She started in residential, teaching reading and humanities to children in grades 3 to 12. She moved from there to Acton Public Schools, where she started the language-based learning disabilities program in the junior high school. She moved from that to general education and taught social studies. She went from there to a special ed coordinator position, which is an administrative position. And then through the pandemic, Val was the principal of the remote learning program. And I know for a fact that they were thinking that there were perhaps 250, maybe 300 students that would be in the RLP, and there were 800. And Val handled that seamlessly. And Val currently is the principal of the Conant Elementary School, a Blue Ribbon School in Acton. And Val is also a SEED trainer, and SEED stands for Seeking Educational Equity and Diversity. And that's a program out of Wellesley College. Val has her undergrad degree from UMass Amherst and master's from Tufts in humanities and special education. And I can't wait for Val to join us. So,
Welcome. Wow.
Quite the introduction. So I just wanted to say I'm really excited to be joining this community and learning the community and what your needs are, and have been really impressed with how collaborative the folks that I've met so far are. I'm sure I will see you again in different capacities, and look forward to building relationships.
It's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
thank you. Okay, so now my 20 minutes.
We did a dry run this morning. She cut a few slides since
I
then,
did
so
cut
you
a
won't
few
see everything
slides.
you got on
And
your email.
I know that you've seen the slides, so I'm not going to go over all of them. I'll just highlight some talking points. I'll be highlighting 4 areas that are rather disconnected, but are all important to aspects of special education. I'll be talking about our program overviews, required child find activities, professional development, and just a quick talk on MCAS. So my slides aren't progressing.
Well, it's not the first tech difficulty we've had.
I know. This is the week for tech difficulties.
I
so-
know, on our tight time.
I know.
That's why I need an assistant director.
Thanks, Val.
Thank you. So this is work that we've been focused on for several months now. We are hoping to have our program descriptions up on the website. My target due date was October 31st, and then I think we'll meet that. Folks have been asking for program descriptions and information that is nowhere to be found on our website. So we have completed this. I've worked with our leadership team and shared this with principals and teachers. And this will be available on the website. So at the preschool level, we have our preschool classrooms and offer related services. At the elementary level, we have our learning centers, Alcott Houses Branch, our SEL program, Thoreau supports Bridge, an inclusive program for students with autism and other neurological disorders. Thoreau also houses the intensive learning program, or the ILP, which is a sub-separate program for students with more significant disabilities. Willard houses Lab, or what we call Literacy and Beyond program. This is the new program that we've talked about earlier, where we're partnering with Landmark Outreach. And of course, related services are available in all of the programs to all of the students who are eligible. At our middle school, learning centers turn into what we call workshops, serving students with mild to moderate disabilities. The SEL program is called Access, The middle school also offers intensive ELA and math replacement classes to a small number of students who may need that. And also intensive literacy workshop to address decoding and encoding through structured reading and encoding and decoding through like Orton, Gillingham, or Wilson. New at the middle school this year is a lab program as well, Literacy and Beyond. And another new program at the middle school is Connections. And this was developed because we had rising sixth graders coming out of Thoreau and the other schools who needed more of a separate and targeted skill development program. And we didn't want to call it the same name as the elementary school. And so it's crossed between Pathways at the high school and the ILP and Bridge at the elementary. And we just named it Connections because it's connecting the elementary and the high school. And again, related services are available to all of the students. At the high school, we have academic support centers or academic learning centers. Harbor is one of the SEL programs. It's more of an inclusive program that provides supports for social emotional learning. Lab is new at the high school. We created that program thinking that it would be for freshmen, and we expanded it to freshmen and sophomores. And then in the end, it serves children in grades 9 through 11 because there was a need. Alt Pro is our alternative ed program for that provides us substantially separate offerings for students who have that need. Bridge is an inclusive program for students who are on the spectrum and or have social communication challenges. Pathways is our life skills program, grades 9 through 12. Launch is our post-high school program located here at Ripley. And again, the related services are available throughout. An easier way to look at this is through our visual that we've perfected over time and updated. And this will also be on our website that shows the continuum of service from from preschool, who serves our children in 3 full day and 2 half-day classes. They serve the range of students, along with the continuum of service from elementary through high school. So we have the SEL strand in green, the language-based learning disabilities in the orange, and the autism continuum in the red and the blue. The difference between the red and the blue, red is more sub-separate and the blue is more inclusive programming. One of the important things that we do in, so moving on to child finds, this is one of the very important things that both state and federal law requires that districts do. It's a high priority at the state and federal level, and it requires that we have planned activities and targeted activities to locate, identify, and evaluate children who are suspected of having disabilities. And the list here just outlines the students that we might prioritize in determining whether or not we should evaluate. Part of the activities would involve a screening process, outreach, and public awareness. Screening, obviously, we have various junctures where we would screen children. Oftentimes it's at the preschool and elementary level, where if a student moves into the district, we might have a screening process available. The outreach is required for us to reach out to private preschools, physician offices, private schools in town. We would do that through letters, phone calls, and let them know about the availability of evaluation. If they have any concerns about students, they have the right to refer them for an evaluation. And then through public awareness, and that might be through any media. It could be through CPAC, Facebook page, from flyers, from notices, through newsletters that we may send out. So those are the requirements of Child Find, and we must be, the state, both the state and federal laws hold us accountable for documenting and doing this. One of the things that we're doing more formally just this year is our kindergarten and preschool screening. And we're using a new screening instrument that at both the preschool and the kindergarten level. We're required to screen children as they enter kindergarten as part of Child Find. And these are the areas that are targeted in the screening instrument. And we're in the process actually right now of screening all of our kindergartners. This is different than the targeted literacy and math screenings that are conducted. This screening is specifically to identify any suspected disabilities. It's looking at whether the underlying skills that are required for reading and math are intact and in place. And if they're not, then we might rescreen or refer a child for a special education evaluation. Wanted to talk a little bit about the training and professional development that is ongoing, and talk about a couple of areas. Wilson Reading is one of the programs that we use widely across the district in special education. It's an Orton-Gillingham-based program, so it's a structured, multisensory, sequential, systematic approach to reading for decoding and encoding. It's used for students who have reading disabilities and dyslexia. We continue to train individuals, special educators, and others who are interested in this. So this summer we had a 3-day, what's called the 3-day overview or the introductory course in late August. And it's a 16 and a half hour course over 3 days. We had 21 staff members attend, and these folks are now considered to be trained to implement the program. 11 of those folks decided to move on for the full year practicum. This is a very comprehensive and intensive practicum. They're supervised, they have to log in 90 hours of online training, they have to complete so many lessons with the students, they're supervised, they're observed. And at the end of all of this, if they meet all of the proficiencies, they are considered certified Wilson practitioners. And they provide the Tier 4 services to our special education students. Another thing that I wanted to bring to your attention is our training program that is required to prevent restraints, is the way I like to frame it. What you see in front of you is your policy regarding physical restraint of students, and it requires that we train staff in the use of physical restraint. The goal, however, is to avoid physical restraint. We've adopted safety care training, which is based in research and evidence-based practices regarding how to approach students, how to deal with escalated behavior. And the focus of this is to de-escalate. So even though it's a 16-hour training, probably, I don't know, 14 hours are devoted to de-escalation, and very little time is spent on the actual physical management of students. The only time that the emphasis is on de-escalation and avoiding restraints and providing safety for both student and adults involved. So in the past year, we had, I think it was 7 restraints, very few, and that's the way we want to keep it. We want it to be 0. We want to use the teachings and practices and the techniques and the language offered through safety care to minimize restraints or to eliminate restraints altogether. So we have trained, the training is, as I said, 16 hours. Recertification is required annually, and that's an 8-hour training. We're lucky to have 3 in-district trainers that are listed here. Heather Lomatier, who's a BCBA, Tom Keene, our pathways teacher at the high school, and Ashley Doak, our branch teacher at the elementary. We currently have 34 individuals trained, and we're starting another series of training tomorrow. So 20 more will be trained. So that gives us 54 individuals trained, so about 10 people per building, but give or take, it's not exact. That might seem like a lot, but we really need to have folks in each building who can be deployed in the event of an incident. And I think we're in good shape in that regard. Last training that we're working on this year is IEP development. So the state for the past 10 or so years has been working on the IEP project, new IEP project. And we've been waiting with bated breath for the new IEP to come forward, and we have yet to see it. It's now in its final stages of development. I understand that there are several districts across the Commonwealth that are piloting the new IEP this year, and it will be used next year. Initially, it was planned to be rolled out next year and be required for us to use it. They've pushed it out another year. So the 24-25 school year will be required to use it, which is fine. I don't know what we'll do next year. We'll see what the format is like. There'll be lots of training on the new IEP this spring. These are some of the embedded goals and the goal of the IEP, these principles. And I think that this is important. We're taking a strengths-based approach, an integrated system. We're moving beyond compliance. We want to make the IEPs very meaningful. Using assessment is key, and using data to drive the goals and objectives in the IEPs is important. And the family engagement is always critically important with our IEPs. The other thing that we're doing with our IEP, so we're tackling it from 2 sides. One is this new IEP that the state is putting forth. The other is the content of the IEP. We're working with Alan Bloom, Dr. Alan Bloom, who's a former professor, associate professor from Simmons College. He taught special ed and has been retired now, but he's been an educational consultant for many years, and his area of expertise is IEP development. And he will be joining us on November 2nd to begin his training with our special ed staff, so that we have consistent IEP development across all of our special educators. And I would be remiss if I didn't highlight the PD paths that have been put in place over the past couple of years that have focused on special education, and under the leadership and the hard work of Kristen, who spends inordinate amount of hours calling people, begging people to come in and provide professional development on 3 afternoons for our staff. Hundreds and hundreds of our staff members have participated in these very important professional development opportunities, and they range from dyslexia to social emotional learning to writing. The Empower Brain Frames is for writing. So a range of things, to counseling, to co-teaching. So all, if everybody could take all of these, it would be fabulous. But it's really exciting, and it's great work. So thank you, Kristen. How am I doing with time?
You're great.
Okay, I'm going to
Yes, keep going. You're almost there.
And then the last thing I wanted to mention was our MCAS data, and taking just a quick view. Kristen will be back on November 22nd to take a deep dive into our MCAS data. But preliminary data I thought was worth sharing. The students with disabilities are highlighted here in blue, and they're compared to the state students with disabilities. compared to non-disabled students, and then the state non-disabled students in green. So you can see that our students with disabilities, our Concord students, 17% in grade 3, for instance, are meeting or exceeding expectations. And in all areas, in all grades, we have outperformed the state average. And it's pretty good at how students have performed as they go up through the grades. And in some cases, they're fairly close to the state average of non-disabled students. This is for ELA.
So in here, we're yellow and blue.
We're,
Yes.
yes, yes. And here's the math performance. So yes, our students are in blue, are the students with disabilities outperforming the state students with disabilities who are in red. And then our students, our non-disabled students are in yellow, outperforming the state non-disabled in green. And then lastly, the science scores are very strong. I just think this is a testament to our students, our families, and our teachers for the hard work they do to really work with our students, with all of our students. I think that that doesn't mean that the students these are the students who did well in terms of meeting or exceeding expectations, but there are many students who didn't. So we need to take a look at those students. And the way we do that, the way I do that, the way I like to do that is look at their the student growth percentile and look at them on an individual basis. Student growth percentile shows an individual student's growth over time. There is a fancy formula that state puts forth that I wouldn't be able to tell you how they get there, but they compare students' performance this year over last comparative group who scored similarly last year and come up with a score. And between 40 and 60 SGP is good, it's average. Below that is low growth, and above 60 is high growth. And that's what we're looking for our students. So even if a student scored in the needs improvement area, or they didn't pass MCAS per se, if they had high growth, if they had an SGP of 80, that means they're learning, they've made significant growth from the previous year. And that means that what we're doing for that student is working. And we can dig deeper and say, well, when did that student get on an IEP? When did so what we're doing is obviously working, they're growing. And that's what we're looking for our students with disabilities and with students with IEPs. So it helps us to target the assistance. It helps us to change our intervention if that's what's needed. And it just is another data point. And again, MCAS is just one data point that we use, but it's helpful. And it's digging in a little bit deeper for our individual kids. And that was it.
Yes, excellent. You really kept within the time. It was an excellent presentation too. I had a question on the overview. I love the overview. This is something that I've been personally looking for a long time, as you know. I just had a question at the high school. Is LEAP and RAP and study skills, are they just under study skills now, or are those acronyms gone in the middle school too?
They are, no, they're not.
They're
They're under
still
the
there.
learning centers and the academic support
Okay.
centers.
Okay, so
And
they're still specific.
They are,
target.
yes,
Okay.
they are. Do you think I should include those listed?
No, I was just wondering.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, that would be parents, I think sometimes people like, well, the child is in LEAP or they're in RAP or they're in study skills. And sometimes, you might want a little LEAP and a little RAP, and maybe that is study skills. I don't know. Does study skills cover everything? And LEAP is more executive function and RAP is reading and writing?
Yes,
I think so, yeah, so.
but it's all under the umbrella of an academic support center.
So I don't think you would need it in there, but it's just great to see the continuum of services that we do have and all the different programs, especially at the high school, because I think those have changed a lot over the past few years.
It's exciting.
Yeah, yes. So thank you.
This was more focused on the intensive
Yeah.
programming threads with kind of a bucket for the other
Yeah.
learning
yeah.
centers, workshops,
Yep.
et cetera.
I have some questions, but maybe when you'll come to us again. But yeah.
Of course.
So I would like to get a little better picture of the sort of organic operations at the high school. I mean,
Sorry.
So, sort of like, if a student is in an IEP, are they assigned an individual special education teacher? And then how does all the communication go between special education, counselor, case manager? I'm not even sure who the players are. I'm sort of my historical. So I kind of like to understand that, because that I think might be something that CPAC can be interested in as well. And I know that's, I really didn't want you to answer that tonight, but.
Okay.
In a future meeting, you could sort of bring us that continuum or how that all works, because there get to be so many players, and I know it's a challenge for all of those players to understand their role, and then the students understand what their expectations are around all that. And I'm talking mostly the students who are in a separate program. So mostly students who are mostly in general education. And maybe a little bit of that with the middle school as well. But I think the high school starts getting pretty challenging because, the students, I think, want to and should take much more ownership for their education.
Can I add on to that? I had a similar question, I think similarly, probably not for this evening, but one of the things that there's so much in here and I just don't have the insight into how it like looks and feels in play. I think that's sort of what you're like, how does that work with the bell schedule with students? Like, do they, just like, what is the experience of this like for a kid? That's sort of, I mean, it seemed incredibly comprehensive. I just couldn't picture it.
So like if you're in this program, this is a sample day of.
Like, honestly, I would love to
For
know
example,
what that looks like. Like, what are students pulled out? Do they have the one-on-one student? Is there like just how does it work? How do
they intersect with all these resources?
with all of the other, obligations like the MCAT,
I'm writing it down.
math and, science and algebra and all of these things, like how does it intersect with, how do they work together? Students' perspective.
And I do think one thing that's changed, particularly at the high school, is the addition of a special ed person. So Fran Wolf coming in there, that's been an administrator. So that's really, tightened up programming and it's been very seamless, really. It's been great.
And then just, I had one more question. Obviously, you're all very excited about the new IEP process, and maybe you could just.
We'll see. We're hearing about it on a monthly basis. We're getting feedback on different components from Russell Johnson, the Associate Commissioner of Education, where he holds monthly meetings with special ed directors in the state. And he gives feedback on the components. He gets feedback from the public. There's public forums, and they're taking one section at a time. And then they're doing that and they're taking feedback from the districts that are piloting the IEP. And then this spring, my understanding is that they will provide training to all of the rest of the districts. They've shared a sample template of the IEP that looks quite different than our current IEPs. The elements are the same, but it looks very different. And some of the things that we're having to work harder to make sure that we cover in an IEP will be automatic, it looks like. So it might be easier. So just using the IEP, making sure that it is updated in our Aspen system, because we use our our software system will be important. And then my goal also, so that's one piece of it. The other piece is the content. We want the content to be rich and meaningful and focused and student-centered, which I think is also the state's goal in terms of writing the IEP. Or changing the IEP, it's going to be student-driven, student-centered. And I think the other piece that I'm curious about with this new IEP is they want student voice. And I think that they're not waiting until student is like 14 and older. They're looking at it from a younger age.
Middle school, maybe, or
Younger,
grade, or
third grade, even younger. Because we often do things to students and they don't know why. So if a student has a voice and understands what I want to learn and why I need this IEP, they're more likely to be invested in their learning. And yeah, so that's it. It is exciting. That's something that we try to do outside of an IEP, but it will become part of the IEP.
That's kind of revolutionary, actually.
It's a long time. It's been over 10 years that they've been working on this. So with a lot of stakeholders input and involvement over the years. So I'm looking forward to seeing the document in its final form.
Awesome.
I just wanted a question. The chart you showed about our students in the yellow and blue. It's nice that our students are performing above state levels, but there still seems to be an achievement gap between students with disabilities and our students without disabilities. Can we break that subset and subgroups down so we can see where that's happening and what group is maybe what those numbers truly reflect?
Yeah, and I'm going to defer to Kristen, who will break this down and do a much deeper dive in November.
Good. And just one more question. Do we have data about students who are graduating, who have disabilities, who don't pass the MCAS and what that looks like for them?
I think we have, you have that, and I think we have very few students who don't pass.
Okay.
They have chances to retake the assessment multiple times. And there are appeals that can be made on behalf of the students. And I don't think I haven't been here to appeal.
No, it's very few kids.
Yeah, I think our students
Traditionally, it's kids in maybe a very substantially separate program with significant disabilities. I'd say that's about it. Having been, we're all really close to this because with the MCAS going to the side for the last couple of years, we literally are uploading data about competency determinations for all of our kids. So we've just all been in the portal this week giving Desi new updated information. So it's very few kids, which is great. And the others, you know, are in programs that match why that might be the case.
Thank you.
Great question.
Sarah?
And I spoke with Tracy about this briefly. In Carlisle, when we look at the special ed programming, we also look at the number, sort of a look back of the past few years of where the numbers are, where they're trending. Is there at some point this year that we can, I mean, in the, you know, in the spirit of looking at more data, just for planning, I mean, and I know you can't plan because I know that every child is different, every growth trajectory is different, every cohort is different and all that stuff, but at least, I mean, if we.
As long as you're gonna just have to hold your breath until November.
Second.
I mean, it's gonna be great. But yes, we will show.
Wait, Sarah, what's
That's
your
an-
like to see the different trends of like if the programs are growing or contracting?
That, you know, like how many kids over the past 5 years, they qualify for this program, right? And then even like more granularly, looking at when we have language-based or what the types of disabilities are and how those are trending.
I think we're happy to, we talked about this earlier because we did hear the question. We would like to give that to you perhaps by email because some of the programs have so few kids.
Yeah.
We wouldn't want anything identifiable or uncomfortable. So I think we could do it that way, Debbie.
Yeah, and I can tell you that the specialized programs, the population or the enrollment ranges from 5 to 10 in the specialized programs per teacher.
Just think about it in the email.
Well, and it's kind of like in SCORE where if there's a number that's so small that it might breach somebody's privacy, we obviously wouldn't want that.
Yeah, so we'll give it to you, just not publicly
Not-
share it.
Yeah.
I think the other thing is that historically, we might not be able to give great historical data because some of our programs are so new.
Mhm,
Or
mhm.
just we don't have 3 data points. For
The other thing
several
I'll name, and
years.
it's happening especially at some of the elementary schools, people are moving here for the programs. So that's a new anomaly to talk about. It's a good
Yeah.
thing.
I mean, in Carlisle, they gave it to us to sort of show that, okay, there are cohorts of populations that are up and coming that
Yeah.
are new issues that we hadn't
Mm.
seen,
Yeah,
not necessarily
gotcha.
requiring specialized
Yeah.
programming. So it was to give us a preview saying, these
Yeah.
kids are in K1 and 2. You've got to start preparing in the middle school.
Right.
For when they.
I would
when they
say
move up.
that's the work we've been
That's-
doing, which is what we just filled in at the middle school. And I think you've got kids in the pipeline now.
Yeah.
K right on up through, given the needs of the kids we know.
Yeah.
So.
So that I'm interested in, like, when they get to, 9 to 22,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
what do we need to be
Yeah.
preparing?
Yeah.
for?
The good thing is that you now have a pretty robust continuum of service that will be prepared for most,
Many
if not all
kids,
of the
if not
students
all.
that are in the pipeline.
And I guess to this end too, like, if, as, we lobbied hard to get Debbie here as often as possible before she exits the district. So she is with us, I think, 3 more times this year, 2 or 3. So if there is anything collectively that is on your radar that you might want, please pass it to us because we haven't, or she hasn't laid out what she's gonna, necessarily present. So just a plug for that from all of you from the committee. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you to you both and welcome.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, so
We're gonna go.
Yes.
Yes, I think we're gonna stay and give Lori a head start so she gets there on time. And we're not gonna get through everything,
Okay.
but we're gonna get through some of what we can, if that's okay. with
And then we're gonna have to push the rest. So November 8th, just for everybody, is going to be our
Good luck.
budget workshop. And we do have the MASC coming. So Dorothy and Tracy will both be joining us. And they will do, and we'll have that recorded for anyone that's not able to be here. But maybe we can just put the rest of this on to November 8th. At the
Yeah.
beginning of the meeting, we can just finish up anything that we don't get to. Okay,
It was gonna be a workshop, but we'll have sort of.
we're gonna have a little
2
business to
separate
do.
meetings again. We'll have-
Sorry.
What's our anticipated end time then right now? We don't.
sorry?
Well, it was supposed to be 7.
No,
but
I know.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to.
I
I
would-
would up, so I just.
Yeah, yeah, we'll get, no, we're not,
Yeah.
we're not gonna, I mean, I'm thinking 7:10.
7:10, but no longer.
Just so
than
we can
7:10.
get some of the votes that have some urgency
Urgency,
off
yeah.
the table. We're not gonna do this whole agenda.
No, we're not doing the whole thing. We're
So to
doing
that end,
what we have to do.
We're gonna chuck policy, I think,
Yeah.
because we do have to give it a second discussion and nothing is particularly urgent. We're gonna chuck advertising on CCHS campus. But we are gonna do a discussion on the school committee coffee schedule only because Sarah and Sharon have agreed to a November 1st coffee in Carlisle at 9:30, which will be before our next meeting.
Where?
I think you guys were gonna do Ferns. So that, and we don't need to discuss, you guys have all seen, I think, oh, and then you both.
I have, so, okay, so November 1st was the Carlisle one because they can definitely be at that. We proposed to the entire committee that you should have seen, was it November 9th on Wednesday, 1 in the morning, 1 at night? I think it was the 9th.
Yeah, those are the Concord ones. We were gonna do 11 a.m. and 7
7
p.m.
p.m.
both in that pretty new space at the library that in between the children's
Kind of the
wing.
cafe.
It has, the cafe, it has some tiered seating and it also has like table seating with chairs that seat up to probably 12.
I just have a question on how this works.
Sure.
Do we sign up like 2 people to do each one, so there's no quorum?
Yeah.
Or, okay.
So then that was gonna be the next thing. Did anyone
It's okay.
attend that one? Anyone want to volunteer on November
What time is the first, November 1st?
11 a.m. or 7 p.m.?
No, the first is Carlisle.
Oh,
The first
November
is at
1st, Carlisle, 9:30.
9:30.
Yeah, what time is that?
9:30. I can do the.
That's
11th.
Monday.
That's a Monday.
Yes.
You mean
Yeah,
11
that-
a.m.
yeah,
on
it's
the
I
ninth?
have to
look at my schedule.
11 a.m.
Yeah.
That's a Tuesday because the first is the 31st.
It was a question,
Yeah.
not statement.
Yeah, that was the day that Sarah
Sounded
and
like a
Sharon
statement.
proposed. So
Okay.
that's why we picked that one.
I can do the 11. I can do November 9 at 11 with you, Carrie.
I can do that.
Perfect.
Okay,
So November 9th. at
Morning.
11 is CRCB. Anyone? wanna
CR is
do-
not a good thing to use.
no, we have two
And
CRs.
she-
The Cs are tricky.
Harry, right?
Harry?
Or
Yes.
We do have two here.
We have the same initials too.
Anyone do 11?
CJ.
And Sharon Witt and Sarah. Yeah.
Yeah, we got the, yeah, it's
We
terrible.
Get the SWs too, same thing.
SWCR.
Oh, really? Middle name too? Oh, wow. Look at
Girl.
Saw and saw.
that.
It's all.
Movie.
Is there anyone available in the evening on the 9th?
And that was what, 7
can.
p.m.?
7
7
p.m.
p.m.
I
I can
can't.
be.
Oh, I cannot be.
I
either.
can be.
Anyone? We can also propose another time,
Another time if no one else can come.
and that's Concord. Well, I guess it's everybody.
It's
I mean,
everybody.
Anybody could come.
Yeah, you saw me up.
All right. I mean,
Are
there
you
you
sure?
go.
There's this is why I can't do it, is there's a school committee meeting the night before.
Yeah, I know. I
Yeah,
can't
that's
be up.
I
Two
can.
nights in a row.
My kids are all.
Okay.
That's
right,
fine.
We're good.
Okay.
And then,
That'll be Domingos and Tracy.
yeah. And then Domingos proposed the Hyde Park Library
date?
branch on Saturday, November 19th. They are available. And it's from, I put a tentative booking today because I read on the website you needed 3 weeks in advance and I got a little nervous. So tentatively we're booked there, but if people can't attend, then I'll move
What
it
time?
to a different date from 10 to 12
10 to 12.
AM on a Saturday.
And we need 2 and others can be in
Silent.
the back.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and everyone can go. Like the last time we went and we all went.
We're just
Right.
careful.
But we
that
just
Yeah, we're
have two
careful about,
designees
we're
to
yeah.
here and
speak.
The rest are with the audience.
Yeah,
Even
yeah.
though we can identify ourselves as school committee.
Yeah.
You know, we're not
Yeah.
deliberating. or looking at
Exactly.
Yeah, anybody can go, just can't.
Anybody can
participate.
go.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I'd like to have the designees so we know.
No, I
who's the
understand.
chatter,
I
yeah.
can do that one.
I can do that.
I can as a backup. if
Yeah.
that's helpful. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I have to look.
Yeah, that's totally fine.
So
So
we've got
just, so we have three regard, we have
designees later.
two
Yeah.
regardless. Domingos,
Do
can
it,
you
and
do
if one of
the
you are not
19th?
being
Yeah, yeah, I'm
Yeah,
gonna be
you
there.
can?
I'm gonna be
Okay,
there.
so
I'm
we
gonna be
have
there.
three, yeah.
Okay. And Domingos doesn't count towards the quorum, so when Domingos is there, it's actually great because we have a third voice in the room.
Yeah.
That's what I was gonna say.
So,
No, I
right.
think you do it.
you guys are the best. I will put
Yes.
out a summary of those dates and who the designees are.
We're gonna have flyers.
What?
Flyers.
Flyers.
I don't know about
Oh,
flyers,
yeah.
but we'll
Mix
we'll
social
utilize
media.
her social media. We'll use our listserv.
Yeah.
Still gotta get a flyer.
And if I'm
And a
correct,
flyer?
we want to do
We could do that.
Can you
We
put them
have
on the
to-
district calendar?
And district calendar.
Yep.
We could do like a pretty, I can do a pretty Canva flyer. I'm good at that.
With a cup of coffee steaming.
Coffee.
Chairs, let me
Yep.
just suggest something. If I'm correct, we do kind of a high level. Here's what's on our plate right now. And then we don't go any further because we're trying to encourage. the
Yeah.
What's
audience
on your
to
mind? Yeah,
Do a what's on your mind.
Oh,
without
yeah.
us, putting borders around it.
yeah, yeah. That was actually helpful last year because it was more of a conversation. Because the coffees can be conversation and we can interact, which is why we really like that format. And the Hyde Park choice was the better choice because of parking. There's plenty of parking there, right?
Tons.
Tons. Okay.
There's a city parking lot across the street.
Okay,
Directly
yeah, that's what they
across.
said. Okay, Aisha can do Carlisle. Aisha, do you want me to
And
unmute
your
you?
reference
Let
to
me see.
flyer is
Yeah, you
get the
can-
word out.
Yeah, so we can circulate it.
Awesome.
Oh,
Get more
Aisha's
people
gonna unmute
involved.
for a second. Go ahead.
Yeah, I can do Carlisle. So Carlisle's on the 1st, right?
Yep.
Yep.
And that's awesome because you
Yeah,
get
I
a
can
big.
do- I can do that one.
Awesome.
Yeah, me too.
We'll add you to that. And
Okay.
there's no quorum. issue.
Well, especially because we're Carlisle.
You can throw me on that too.
Yep. And Aisha, you said you can do Hyde Park too?
Yes. Yeah.
Perfect. All right. All right, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
you.
All right. So if,
All right.
so I will send out a summary on email to everybody of what we just discussed. Which is fine because also too scheduling is not subject to open meeting law, so that's a good thing. But we just agreed to it anyway. So now I guess we're gonna move on to some action items.
And can we do, maybe we should just stop after these action items and then we'll do Concord School Committee plus. the
And I have
sign.
questions about the vehicles, which would require.
I have some answers to that. And if we can also vote. at
I
the
didn't even
next
ask
meeting.
you the
No, no,
questions.
no, I don't
Bob
mean the
sent a
answers.
quick
Bob
email.
sent an email.
But
for
I need to have a
supplemental.
conversation with them.
Okay, so
And
then
you
we'll
probably
vote
need
on
to go
that.
back to
About this
the
then.
Yep,
transportation
with
staff.
urgency.
yep,
It's not urgent, right?
yeah,
Okay.
I don't think so.
Okay, good.
Yes, I'll give you information and then that way you'll have it
Yes.
for the next time, okay?
Yep.
I'd like to hold off on the Sharon Young if we could. I don't want to cause any problems for the donor. But given the magnitude of the donation, I'm wondering if we can revisit what our criteria is for dispersing those monies. But I'd ask for opinions around the table first. Maybe it's a non-issue. Question.
I think that none of the money has been dispersed yet. There is a process in place for students to apply, and this is for international travel at the high school, to apply for a subsidy. And so there's a pocket of money in the Sharon Young Fund right now, and this is just accepting a donation of more money
I
that
understand.
is, this group is leaving, so, yeah.
So, and just to that point, have we gotten a presentation on that process?
No,
Well, that's what I'm asking for, is just something about the process, because
Yeah.
it's a very generous donation.
Yep.
And so this is not relevant to the donation per se, rather it's now that we have a growing sum and trips back on, we
Mhm.
can all be informed about the process, because when we started this, I was quite involved, and there was a lot of teacher discretion. But that was when we didn't have an organized plan and.
Because
fund.
they
Well-
were doing their
Now
own
that we have
fundraising
plan
kind of a
and
thing.
fund, I'd like to understand more about.
well, there was a process pre-pandemic and pre-pandemic, there was a committee that met and reviewed applications, and there were anonymous applications. So it was, and full disclosure, I was the parent on it because I established the fund, so
Mhm.
everyone knows that. But I was the parent, there was principal, assistant principals, and probably 4 teachers on it. So that was what was in place pre-pandemic. We awarded money, and I don't know if that ever came to the school committee. Nobody went on trips, so we actually didn't technically award money, but we approved probably 4 requests. So all requests that came in were actually all approved, and that was in January of 2020. And so I don't know if there's a requirement, from our policies. I can certainly ask for a presentation of Lori if that's something that people want, but just let us know.
Doesn't need to be-
Could
if
be a
somebody
simple
gets-
memo. I'm just
Yeah,
curious.
yeah,
about the
yeah.
rubric, so to speak, is there a maximum, how is that determined? The reason I'm asking is because it's nice for a school committee to understand these things now before there's some pressure on
Mhm.
the giving program.
agree.
On the funding program.
Because now that we're launching again.
Yeah.
I assume there's gonna be very high interest, and who knows if there'll be more requests, but I just don't know how it's done, and is there transparency? Do all the students understand?
Yes,
But
we'll get a presentation on it. There is a process that is happening right now, though, and there have been requests that have come in.
Right, but do families need to get financials? I mean, how is?
No,
Okay,
no.
that's interesting.
Well, I mean, why don't we push that one off?
Yeah, and
And
again, I'm not looking for a grand presentation. I'm
No,
looking
no, no.
For a level of understanding on the part of this committee, so that we know as this fund gets more active, how it's being used vis-a-vis our financial need goals, our equity goals,
Yep.
our cultural competency goals, our policies, how does it relate to our policies, just so we'll.
Can it be a both and, like, we have a deep dive into this, just understanding this or overview of it, but we can also vote to approve this very generous donation? Like, can we do both?
I'm comfortable with
Yep.
that.
yeah, because I think we can accept the money.
Yeah.
Because
We would never
it's someone,
know.
yes, that's
That-
rolling it
that
over to us.
Information's not
Yeah.
gonna influence my vote.
Decision on that.
Yeah.
But I would like. to
But
have-
then it's a good to know we can do,
Right,
yeah,
right.
Yeah.
ask for that.
So just.
Guys, we
We're
skipped
over.
over my favorite goals. I
Goals.
wanted these approved in August. So could I
What do we do?
entertain a motion to approve our school committee goal?
So moved.
Second.
Marvelous. And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hooray, you got it. Well done. That was a really, really collaborative process. I appreciate
Yes.
everyone's work on it.
And so we are not going to vote on our policies tonight, and we're going to move down to vote to accept the donation to the Sharon Young Scholarship Fund from.
Does somebody have the motion in front of them?
Yeah, I actually just opened it. So
Yeah, if you could read that.
I move that the Concord Carlisle School Committee votes to accept a donation to the Sharon Young Scholarship Fund from the United Women's Club of Concord in the amount of $3,000.
Second. With our sincere appreciation. For
Absolutely.
their
Thank
support
you.
for this important fund and what it enables on the part of our students.
Yes, thank you. And we have a second. We do have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, and
We'll
that
skip
passes.
the
We'll skip
vehicle.
vehicles.
If that's okay.
You want me to read the next one?
Sure.
Yes.
I move that the Concord Carlisle School Committee votes to accept a donation from CC at Play Incorporated in the estimated amount of $12,358.63 to be used to fund the replacement of the vinyl wrap on the padding surrounding Memorial Field.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you to CC at Play and.
Okay. Carlisle, you are lucky and you're out. Well,
We
we
staying?
do you want to get we have
Oh,
one.
the
more
other
vote on
agenda item.
PS side. So I move to adjourn. You have to.
You can
yes,
adjourn
you
us,
can adjourn.
and
You-
we
no,
can
you adjourn.
I can adjourn.
continue one more item.
Okay, I'm going to
So-
adjourn the Carlisle members of the Concord Carlisle School Committee. Thank you so much, and adjourn the Concord Carlisle School Committee meeting. Alexa.
I think we can probably forego the CMSBC update, but maybe we don't need, maybe we shouldn't, because I'm so close to it. But the CMSBC continues to meet weekly. Representatives, namely the chairs, have been to the finance committee meetings as well as select board meetings. Those discussions have been highly active because there's just so much collaboration between, all of these different groups. We actually had a tour yesterday of an elementary school renovation in Lincoln that was done by the same architects who we've engaged with, so that members of the committee who wanted to sort of see what the look and feel might be like. Carrie Court and I were all there. And Tracy, a little late. And anyway, so
I
so
was
that
on the phone.
so that was really tremendous. And just so you know, we are taking one last final look on Thursday morning at any additional potential value engineering that can be done before we get like the final. Anything else that I missed, Court?
No.
Okay. No. All right. So moving on, the CMSPTG has made a donation for agenda books. I think this is probably for the fundamentals class that a lot of sixth graders take, and the agenda books are a big
This
part
is
of
sort
that.
an executive function.
Yeah,
It's like a
exactly.
planner and
Yeah.
agenda planner.
It was
Mhm,
put
to
together
keep
by-
kids how to keep track of their homework and so
But it's
that
interesting that they're coming back finally.
They're coming back.
It's
I
not,
know.
they're not doing it online.
No,
They're
they're
doing it
coming
handwritten.
back. They're handwriting
they
it.
do, yeah.
Because it's doing it. Everybody knows. it's
Yeah.
gonna-
And there is a
we're
mind.
Back at the school where I work.
Yeah, and they're coming back at the high school level too.
So good.
So it's really exciting.
Back too.
Oh.
Oh,
Imagine.
all good things.
Well, the blue book's not so much.
I love a blue
Oh,
ball so much.
Drama.
And then the pages would fall out. Actually, maybe they're awful. I don't know. Maybe I'm just nostalgic.
Okay,
Anyway,
we
so
digress.
if we could entertain a motion to,
I move that the Concord School Committee votes to accept a donation in the amount of $2,000 from the CMS-PTG towards the CMS homework agendas.
Second. With our
all
sincere
in
gratitude.
favor?
Thank you. Aye.
Thank
Aye.
you. Aye.
Aye.
And with that, I will move to adjourn. If anyone wants to head to Thoreau, you're more than welcome. Otherwise, you're welcome to go enjoy dinner with your family.
I hope we will
At a
eventually
semi-level.
just